Hello, everybody. Welcome to this lecture on transport layer services. And today we're going to look at addressing in the transport layer. So the transport layer consists of an entity which uh, the main objective of which is to provide efficient, reliable, and cost-effective data transmission services to the application layer. So as we know that any layer in the OSI model or any other layered architecture provides services to the higher layer, next higher layer. And it also uses the services provided by the lower layer. So the transport layer, which lies between the network layer and the application layer, if we consider the session and the presentation layer to be combined into one single application layer, so the transport layer provides services to the application layer and it uses the services that are provided by the network layer. And this work is done by the entity called the transport entity. And this transport entity can be located in either in the OS kernel. In some cases, you can use library functions which can be built into your network applications, or sometimes it may work as a separate user process. And in some cases, it can also reside, this net transport entity can also reside in the network interface card. So wherever it is, in spite of, wherever it may be, the transport entity uses the services of the network layer, and it uses the services provided by the network layer, as you can see, and it provides services to the application layer. So we can see here the network layer, the transport layer, and the application layer. So the transport entity is using the services provided by the network layer. So there is an interface between the transport layer and the network layer, which is the transport network interface. Similarly, between the application layer and the transport layer, there is the application transport interface. Okay, and at these points, there is, in case of the transport layer, you have a transport address, and in case of the network layer, you have the network address. So the network address, which we have already discussed in the earlier video, we have the network. This is known as a network service access point. Similarly, for the transport layer, the transport address is known as the transport service access point. We'll see that in a while. And as you can see, the transport layer is responsible for sending segments from the host 1 to host 2 to the transport entity of the host 2. So the communication or the protocol between the host 1 and host 2 at the transport layer is between the transport entity in host 1 and the transport entity in host 2. Next, the transport services that are provided by the transport layer can be of two categories. One is connection-oriented service and connection-less service. So connection-oriented, as you can understand from the name itself, connection-oriented means prior to transfer of any data, a connection must be established between the transport entity in host 1, which was, as we could see, so a connection has to be established between the entities in host 1 and the transport entity in host 2. So both the parties must be ready to communicate. Only after that communication can take place. And once the data transfer is over, you can the connection can be released. So there are three phases here in connection oriented. First, you have connection establishment. Then the data is transferred, and finally you have connection release. Now in the connectionless mode, in the connectionless type of transport service that is provided, okay, all these things are not required. Connection establishment and connection release is not required. Instead, simply when data has to be sent, it is sent without establishing a connection. So this is definitely, it is not as reliable as your connection oriented service. So we will see two protocols in the transport layer. For connection oriented, we will see TCP, and for connectionless, we will see UDP. And we will see various applications where these two are used. Now, when you study about the network layer, you will find that most of the functions that are provided by the network layer and the transport layer are similar. They have, both of them addressing. They perform functions like addressing. Then they perform actions like flow control. Okay. Network layer also provides connection oriented and connectionless service. So you'll find that most of them are similar, provide similar functions. Then the question arises as to why do you need the transport layer? If network layer is already providing all this, then why do we need this? The main reason for this is because the network layer is unreliable. So when you have an unreliable network layer, the application layer which is interacting with your transport layer, okay, they should not be dependent upon the network as in order to say whether the data will be transmitted or not. Let's say, for example, let us consider a email application. So you have an email application here, and you want to send this email to host 2. Okay. Now the application will simply use the transport layer services to send this email, and the transport layer in turn will use the network layer services to send the email. Now one point to be noted here is that the transport layer services, they run on the individual host machines. They run here. So the transport services executes in the host machine, whereas the network layer services, they run on the network devices. They don't run only on the host devices. In between host 1 and host 2, you may have multiple routers which are connecting host 1 and host 2. So the network layer services will run on these routers. Now the routers, what software is running in the routers, whether it is reliable, whether this software is stable or not, whether packets are lost or not, that will be dependent only on the network layer. So the host 1 or host 2 has no control over it because they don't own the routers. So when you are using, suppose, a particular data provider, okay, in that case you don't have any control whether whether their towers are working or not. Okay, you cannot control what software is running in their towers, but you can control what is running in your particular machine. So because the network layer is unreliable, because you have no control over what is running in these routers, okay, in order to give assurance to the application layer, to the email say application, that when you are sending an email or when you are sending an SMS, it will reach the destination. It will reach your destination in the correct order. So who ensures that? That is ensured by the transport entity. That is provided by the that is a guarantee which is provided by the transport entity, that whatever be the condition of the network, if you are sending an email, that email will reach the host. Okay, and it will reach it intact. Okay, you do not reach, and you will not accept an email application which gives you only part of the email and you don't receive the entire email. You receive only bits and pieces. You will not use that application. So that reliability is given by the transport layer. So to improve the quality of services that are provided by the application, okay, the transport layer will provide these kind of guarantees. That is why if the network was very stable, the network works perfectly, and there is no delay, there is no packet loss. Okay, in that case, you don't need the transport layer. But in reality, this is not the case. In reality, you have packet losses, you have delays, lots of things. So in such a situation, in order to provide reliability, you have the transport layer present. That is why you need a separate network layer and you need a separate transport layer. All right, so moving on. So why is the transport layer? Even though most functions are similar to the network layer, because it provides reliability on top of an unreliable network. Now let us come to the question of addressing. Okay, so like I said, there is an interface between the transport layer and the application layer, and similarly between the transport layer and the network layer. So the reference point that is used is these are called addresses. So in case of the network layer, it is called NSAP, that stands for Network Service Access Point. Network Service Access Point. And in case of the transport layer, it is called Transport Service Access Point, TSAP and NSAP. Now, most of the time, a particular host will have a single NSAP, a single network access point, okay, which in practical terms, we use the IP address to represent this, okay. So the device may have a single IP address. So all data that comes in, let's say we consider this destination. So the data which comes in through the destination, okay. Now to which application should it send? Should it send to this application? Should it send to this application? So how will it know? It will know by looking at the transport service access point. So which access point it is addressed to. So here you see in the application layer of host 1, you have one transport access point, which number is 1208. 1208. So again, in real life, this TSAP is nothing but your port address, port numbers or port address. Okay. So here we have an application process which is running at TSAP 1208. Okay. So the data, this will send the data to the transport layer. The transport layer will send it via the network access point through all the different layers, and then it will reach the host. It will go to NSAP for the host 2. Then to whom it is sent to, whether it is sent to now, in host 2, you have two processes which are running, server 1 and server 2, two applications which are running. So when the data that is sent from host 1 will have as its source, the source address would be 1208. Okay, and at the transport layer, and the destination, and at the destination SAP, suppose it is for server 2. So server 2, you can see, is running at TSAP 1522, and server 2 is running at TSAP 1836. So if it is supposed to be for 1836, so the destination would be given in the in the whatever data is set there, it will be given as 1836. So when it reaches the transport entity of the host 2, it will know to whom to forward this particular data. So that is your transport. These are the various addresses. So these are called service access points. So the transport TSAP is used as the service access point endpoint in the transport layer. In the network layer, it is this. Okay. So usually what happens, these application process, whenever they want to, whenever you want to establish, send some data, okay, it will attach themselves to a local TSAP in order to establish a connection to a remote TSAP. So like we saw here, this process, application process, it will attach itself to the number, to the TSAP 1208. And in the packets, it will put the destination as the TSAP of the destination. So it is supposed to send to server 2, so it will put in destination the TSAP of the destination. Now the problem here is, how will your host 1, application process and host 1, know that server 2 is running at 1836? Okay, how will it know? It has to know all this. So what happens, usually there are some fixed TSAPs where some well-known processes or well-known applications are running. So if you are using something like an email server, it will be running at a particular well-known TSAP. Similarly, if you're using web, then it will be a web browser. Then so say you're using HTTP to send some data. In that case, it will be using some well-known TSAP. Okay, so these TSAPs are known to everybody. Just think of it as like, say you already know something, you know that this is the address, so I can send it to this. But then this is not possible for everyone. For every process, it is not possible, because not all TSAPs are fixed. And it is not possible for you to know the TSAP of every process that is running in host 2. So in that case, what happens? We have something called a port mapper. A port mapper. So what is a port mapper? So first thing that you do is, before you establish a connection, the user first sets up a connection to the port mapper. So port mapper is a special process which is running in a host. So here I have a host A, I have a host B. So A wants to communicate with the machine B, okay? And then in the machine B, there is one special process which is running at the application layer, which is your port mapper, okay? And this is running at a fixed port, a fixed TSAP. So let's call it, let's say it is running at TSAP 1010. Okay. So when an application in the application layer of A wants to communicate with some process in B, say it wants to communicate with this process B. Okay. And this is working at some other TSAP. We don't know what is the A does not know what is the TSAP here. So let's say it is working at TSAP 1234. Okay. So what this will do is that it will first establish a connection with the port mapper, because it knows the TSAP of port mapper. And what the port mapper will do, the port mapper will send the TSAP of the process with which it wants to connect, with which A wants to connect. So the user sends a message specifying the service name. So it says, I want to use, say this is the name of this service is, say, email service. I want to use the email service of B. Okay. So it will send a message saying that I want the TSAP of email service running in your machine. So in that case, the port mapper will send back the TSAP of the email process which is running. Okay, so then the user, then from A will release this connection, and then it will establish a new connection. It will establish a connection with the new TSAP that it has got from the port mapper. So this is one way of handling and when you don't know what is the TSAP, the addresses, using the services of a port mapper. Now, in this case, this email service must always be on at this port. At this port, it must be running. Only then the port mapper can give this TSAP. Now, it may not be, there may be some processes which are running very frequently, and every time there is a request for those processes. But there may be certain applications which are not available or which are not running very frequently, which are not requested very frequently. Very rarely some connection request comes for those applications. So it's no point for these processes to be connected and waiting to get request. Okay. In that case, every time they have to be checking whether there is any new connection request. So to avoid this or to make the system more efficient, what happens is something like this is done. An initial connection protocol is used. So here I have host 1 and host 2. Here, this is the user process. This is the user process. It connects at the host at some TSAP. Multiple TSAPs can be there because multiple processes can be running. Multiple applications can be running in one machine. And all of them might be wanting to send or transmit data, send and receive data. So this user is connected to this TSAP of host A, and then it wants to establish a connection with, say, a mail server, which is in host 2, mail server. Now, this mail server is not awake all the time. Let's say it is sleeping. So only when there is a request, then it will wake up. Okay. So similar to the port mapper, now here this first initial request will go to a special process known as the process server. So there is a process server which is running in host 2. Okay. And this process server will receive a connection request. And then when it receives the connection request, and in this connection request, the user will say to which service it wants. Just like in the port mapper, it will say which service it wants. Service request. So when it receives a request like this, then the process server will first check if there is any process which is if the required service is already attached to some TSAP. If it is already attached, then it will give this connection to that particular process. Okay. Then the user host 1 does not have to establish another connection to the service required. In case that particular process is not working, let's say the mail server is not currently attached to any TSAP. That means it is not currently running. So what this process server will do? The process server will create a process. Will create this, wake up this process, the mail server. It will create this mail server process, attach that mail server process to a TSAP. Okay, and then hand over this connection to the mail server. So now the user is connected. First, it was connected to the process server. Then the process server has created this mail server and handed over this connection to the mail server. So now the user process has a connection with the mail server process. So this makes the process more efficient. That means rarely used processes will not have to be constantly monitoring the TSAPs, the access points, to see if there is any incoming request. Okay, and once this connection, here you can see this particular scenario. This is known as an initial connection protocol. So you can look at the difference. You can try to find out the difference between the port mapper and the initial connection establishment protocol. Connection is initial connection protocol by using a process server. Okay, so that is about the addressing. Okay, here, like I had mentioned, we have seen the services provided by the transport layer. We had seen the transport service access points. Okay, what are these? We have learned that, and we have seen that how a process in host 1 can connect to another process in host 2 via TSAPs. Okay, so this is about addressing in the transport layer. So if the TSAP is not known, the destination TSAP is not known, then either a port mapper can be used or a process server can be used. So that is all for this particular lecture. In the next video, we will look into connection establishment.